Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Isaac. I work at the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. It's the last time I'm going to say the full name, ICANN for short. It is a great pleasure to be here today among so many smart people. I already feel like I have learned a lot, and it's only been half of the day, the presentations. I never imagined, I must be sincere, I never imagined that Zabbix community was so big and strong. It is very, very amazing to witness this day. I have a terrible memory, so I'm keeping my notes in here. Well, the reason I'm here, because I would like to share a little bit of how Zabbix, through its consultant and development services, is helping ICANN to extend the Zabbix monitoring platform to monitor a very critical component of the whole internet industry. I have 3 objectives on my talk today, and I would like to have all of you, before leaving this room, understanding who's running the internet, who is actually operating the internet. Quick hint, it's not a single company, it's people like you, engineers, who are running the internet. I would also like to give you a little brief overview of how ICANN works, how the DNS industry operates outside, and also like to share a little bit of numbers and what Zabbix has helped ICANN to implement in this monitoring system. Well, you know, I love very much stories, and let me tell you a little one. This is about a person who has been a great inspiration in my life, both personal and professional. It's my grandfather. He's almost 100 years old now. That means 100 years old. It's great. It's even before everything in technology. So, more than 10 years ago, he came to me and said, Isaac, so you are an engineer. I heard about this thing called the internet. So, here's some money. I want you to get me a computer, and I want you to show me how to use the internet. You know, that's amazing. This is a guy who is fighting arthritis in his hands, who was an accountant. That means he was used to write everything in paper. No computers, just working all day long with a pencil, an eraser, and just doing a lot of numbers. So, fast track today. He's, as I said, almost 100 years old. He is sharing documents in the cloud with all his daughters and sons, great grandchildren. He's keeping scores through Skype with all the relatives. He's actually creating a database of all the genealogical tree of the family online. He actually knows how to use internet a lot better than me, and I'm the engineer, right? So he's doing voice over IP, video conferences. It's amazing. So what I learned from him is the internet is actually one of those few pieces of technology that is changing the life of people around the world every day. Just as the people that we heard before talking about how many websites they are monitoring, how they are interacting with all these technology pieces, doing integration all over the internet. It is amazing. So it is a privilege for me to be working at ICANN, because at ICANN we care about how to make the internet work better, to be more reliable, to be fair for everybody who is in this game. So, a little bit of history on the internet and in general, and particularly on the domain name system. 1969, That was the internet. Of course, it was called the ARPANET. And it was just 4 nodes. So it was very easy to remember what was the IP address for each one of them. Fast Track, 2005, those are the nodes in the internet. It's just a crazy network of interconnected nodes and networks. That means there is a bunch of companies and organizations like you who are interchanging data one with another over the internet. So what is my grandfather doing every day when he gets online and do some work? He types a domain name in his web browser, something like domain.org. And well, I know we are all engineers here, you know how this works, but it's very important that I go a little bit over this so we understand how important is the job, the work that Zabbix as a company is helping ICANN to do. So just a reminder for everybody, domain name, system query. We have a browser or a device, our phone, our computer. We are looking for a service like www.domain.org. So our device goes and asks a root server, which is a special DNS server. There are 13 of them around the world and many instances of them. The device asks for the address of this domain.org. The root server is going to say, well, I don't have the information for that specific label, but I can point you to the server who's managing the org label. And so on. Our device goes and asks that server, and that server does the same procedure. It tells you, well, I don't have the exact details for that, but I can point you to the one who's got the information. So at the end, you finish finding a server that actually knows what's the IP address for that domain name. So you get that IP address, and then your device is able to connect through the internet to that specific IP address. That's akin to what our phone is doing every day. We are making phone calls with it. You remember the name of somebody who wants to call, you type the name, the phone finds the phone number, calls it for you. Same thing when you receive a call. You have a number, incoming call, which is a phone number, but you see a name on your phone. That's a very good thing, because right now I think I have like 150 people in my phone. It would be impossible for me to remember all those phone numbers. I believe that we can hold up to 7 ideas in our head at any given time. Most of you, I guess, for me, it's like 2 or 3. I have a terrible memory. So the same thing for DNS. What would be the anatomy of a domain name, a specific domain name? You have at the right a dot, which most of the time we ignore or we don't use, but it's always there. Then we have the first level, from right to the left, second level, third level, and so on. If we look at that as if it was a tree from top to bottom, we would see at the beginning that dot, which is the root server, or the DNS root. That is managed by ICANN. Then ICANN, through several mechanisms, delegates the administration of the next level to another organization or company. That would be the top level domains. As you can see in here, we could have generic top level domains, or GTLDs for short, like .org or .com. Then we could also have country codes TLDs, like CRB for Serbia, if I'm correct, UK for United Kingdom, which themselves delegate the administration of domains of levels under them to other companies or organizations like the ones you see in here. And then those companies or organizations themselves delegate the final strings that users or companies utilize. Okay? So from the above and from all the experience you've had using the internet itself, we can identify certain players in this game. We have the registrants, which is the customer, the individual, or the company who wants to have a domain name. Then you have resellers, who are companies like web hosting companies, internet service providers, that offer certain value-added services to the registrants. We also have the registrars. And we have the registry operators. And we have ICANN. So how does ICANN play in this part? Well, the registry operators are the ones who have a contract with ICANN, so they manage a top-level domain. We have that relationship through a document called a registry agreement. The registrars also have an accreditation from ICANN that allows them to process all the registrations of domain names, of new domain names, with the registry operators. So at the end, what the registry operators do is they have to control the administrations to be specific of the top-level domains. They have the master database for each of them. And then you have the registrants who have, the registrars, sorry, that have the information of those new domains that are being registered. So I want to be sure we all understand that ICANN is not actually operating this process. It's just setting the rules after hearing the community, after having a process where it finds consensus on what the rules should be, and then just enforces them. So that was the system of the domain name. So who are the users of this process? Well, they are everywhere. This is very interesting. We are sharing the world with over 7 billion people now. Many of them, as you can see, those circles, blue circles around the world, those are the biggest conglomerates of inhabitants in this world. There is a lot of people in Asia. And I guess that's why one of the reasons that Zabbix itself, as a company, has an office in Japan. There is over 40 million people just in Tokyo. There are many other huge conglomerates of inhabitants. And as you can see, on the darker the color on the countries, that means the higher the internet penetrations for that country. That means that Northern European countries, like Sweden, have a very high rate of internet penetration. That means almost everybody in those countries is online. That means those are countries where almost everybody is doing online transactions in the banks. They are used to have their life through on the internet, their connections with their families, interactions with coworkers, family, friends, etc. And these are all users of the domain name system. Now, ICANN was founded in 1998, and one of the purposes of ICANN was to create competition on the DNS industry and to make sure that it's working for everybody. Now, from all these people in the world, over 70% of them are non-English speaking people. That is very difficult for many of them because the internet, the domain name system used to be only ASCII based. That means we were not able to use special characters. In the case of my family, I grew up in Mexico, we have an accent. We have the letter ñ, which is like an N with a tilde on top of that. And many of you, of course, have Cyrillic-based or Arabic-based languages. Very, very difficult to show your grandfather how to type something when he cannot use the letters he's used to use while speaking freely. Now that changed through two mechanisms. A fast-track mechanism for country code top-level domains to actually have those non-ASCII based characters on top-level domains. And recently, ICANN launched a program called the GTLD program, where we are able to have hundreds of new top-level domains over here. So starting October last year, we've seen over 300 TLDs now delegated on the root zone. That means you will start to see new domains like Guru or .sexy. Hopefully someone in the future will have .monitoring, and perhaps Alexei will be registering Zabbix .monitoring, or I don't know, maybe apply for .zabbix, right? And have a blog .zabbix and things like that. So it's very exciting times to be working in the IT industry. The internet is changing dramatically through the introduction of these new GTLDs. So as an engineer, it's very interesting because we'll see problems like non-ASCII domain names being monitored on our Zabbix instances in our companies, which will introduce interesting challenges like how to deal with these characters and how to properly configure the operating system to handle those non-ASCII strings and levels. So it's a heads up, actually. Just keep an eye on that. It's happening already. This is the whole picture of how ICANN operates. As I said before, it's very complex. There are, working for ICANN is a very difficult thing, because you don't only have your responsibilities internally and your manager, but also everything that you are doing is impacting how the internet works. So there are many groups within the ICANN community and that oversee different things like country codes, generic domain names, the security and stability of the internet. So we are always focused on how to make things work better for all of us, and how is the future looking like. How we are going to prepare for things like the Internet of Things. I don't know if you are aware of this, but right now there are more devices connected to the Internet than actual users. That means for every person that gets online and uses some Internet-based service, there's a bunch more of devices talking through the internet. Probably many of them are Zabbix proxies and Zabbix monitoring around. Very interesting times. So that was just a brief introduction. This is the work that ICANN does and how the internet is changing. Now, if you remember, I mentioned a registry agreement. That is the document, the contract that not every, but the most recently contract signed with registry operators. And it contains a section called Specification 10 that has a service level agreement. I don't know, I'm sure you all understand what a service level agreement is, because we as a company, I mean, not now, but before I worked as a consultant for many companies, and we need to make sure that we offer a certain level of service to our customers. Now the registry operators are agreeing to put that in written in this document, and it's a very, very tough and difficult service level agreement. As you can see in here, there is a 0 minutes of downtime for the DNS service. That means every company behind all those new delegated generic top-level domains is saying that they will not have the DNS service down, not even a single minute. Same goes for TCP, UDP, so it's a very detailed document. You can see the values in here. We already talked about DNS. We also have something called RDDS, which is whois web, whois TCP, which is the registration data directory services. where you can find who's actually the owner of a certain TLD, who's managing it, a phone number that you can contact them. You also have the EPP, which is an API used between the registrars and the registry operators to automate the registration of those domain names and the modification of them. These are, have a little higher values of the service level requirements. And as part of the same registry agreement, we have something called an emergency threshold. An emergency threshold is if we have a top-level domain registry operator who's down for more than 4 hours, we have a problem because users of the internet will not be able to access their services or the banks or access their documents. So this would impact very, very negatively the experience of the internet users. So Zabbix is helping us to monitor these values. We have configured through the Zabbix development and support services platform that is monitoring all these values and the ones I showed you here. And it's doing that every minute. So every minute we know if a TLD is down. One of the services that the registry operator provides is down. And we get alerts when this has been reach a 25% threshold, 10% threshold, 50, 75. So when we reach the 4-hour or 24-hour for EPP or RDDS, we are ready to start something called an emergency backend registry operator. So the users of the internet will only see, will only be affected for a certain period of time. So if the registry operator is not able to recover their service, we'll have all the data that we have in escrow, move that to this EVERO, emergency backend registry operator, and start the service again. So the internet users are not affected because of this. And eventually, when the registry operator is able to go back online, we'll just transition back. We have deployed more than 40, I believe it's 42 proxies around the world. If you remember the map at the beginning of users of internet and internet penetration, that's one of the many data points we consider to have the location of these proxies around the world. We are covering Asia with several nodes in here, Oceania, many nodes in Europe, North America, South America, even Africa, because Zabbix is gathering information, monitoring data about how the TLD services are performing for the users in those specific regions. So we don't monitor everything for a single place. We just have Zabbix proxies, and we get the data, and every minute, the Zabbix proxies are sending back well, actually, it's the Zabbix server who's pulling those data points. And on the central server, we have a process who's calculating how many of those proxies are seeing a certain service, either down or up. There is a consensus. It needs to be 51%. And then if 51% of them see a service down, then an incident is triggered. And if that incident is triggered for those SLAs for more than those time values, then we'll start getting alerts. So, sorry, it's okay. Well, it's very complex process. We are very happy with the work that Zabbix has done in this project with ICANN. We're able to create a 40 pages long requirements document, very detailed, on top of the registry agreement. We created workflows for how we wanted to have the test being performed. We gave this to Zabbix team, the Zabbix development team, and they just developed the processes, the test, the implementation, the installation, just everything. It is I can say that today, after a year of working with them, it is a great company to do business with. So if there is anybody here just not quite sure of going through the support contract or starting to use Zabbix or contacted them for custom development, please do. It's a very good decision to make. Our installation, some numbers around. The system that Zabbix delivered, it's a production system. It's a very critical system. We have the capacity to have over 12 million triggers, some 3,000 new values per second. Now, of course, we are not using all of that right now because the pace at what we are receiving new GTLDs through the new GTLD program is still ongoing. But we will probably have those numbers by the end of the year. We have 600 gigabytes in memory database. We are using a SAN with SSD disks. Every minute, Zabbix is calculating the results for every DNS test, for every TLD, for every name server, for every IP address of that. Every 5 minutes, we are doing the RDDS and EPP test. And every minute, Zabbix is calculating the aggregated results of all that information. It is a lot of information. We are keeping around 2 months of, at least 2 months of information in memory available at all times. And then we need to keep the trends and results in perpetuity. That's a lot of time, right? It's forever. For the rest of the existence of the internet, we need to keep those data points. I think it's a great challenge that we gave Zabbix, and we are very happy with the outcome. Last but not least, there's the code that Zabbix is developing for ICANN. It's already hosted on the Subversion tree in Zabbix code repository, and it's going to be merged into the main branch at some point in the future, whenever we decide it's ready for that. We have 5 minutes. Thanks. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. Okay, great. So the Zabbix team, I couldn't find a more complete, better picture, but it's a great, as I said, it's a great company to do business with. I've been around in the IT work or business for over 15 years. They are very exceptional. There are very few companies that anybody that you talk to in that company is passionate about what they are doing and know their thing. So this is a thank you to Zabbix team, and particularly to these guys. Now, I see Vlad over there. Great programmer. He is actually now an expert in both Zabbix and the DNS industry, because that's the guy who developed the actual test that we implemented to do the monitoring of the top-level domains for the GTLDs. Oleg. I don't know where is Oleg. He almost never speaks, but whenever he says something, it's just right to the point. He's a great front-end developer, and this guy, I don't think he ever sleeps. Where is Alex? It's over there. Alexei, every time we have a problem, and at the beginning of the implementation, we have many questions, we have many concerns about how the system would perform. I actually created a different monitoring system just to validate the information, the result that Zabbix was doing. I'm very glad to say that I received 0 false positives on the system that they delivered. I don't know where was Sergey when this picture was taken, so I had to clip it into this one. Horrible design work of mine. Anyway, great program manager. I'm sorry, project manager. It's a project manager who understands the technical details and knows how to administer this project. It's a great guy. So I would like to have a round of applauses to this amazing team. And if you could please stand up. Vladimir is over there. Alexei is over here. I don't see Oleg. Well, if you see him, just great guys to do business with. I'm sure that just as these people are part of a great team, the rest of the team is amazing. I just had to mention the guys who I've been working with for the past year because I've been bothering them a lot, day and night. Oh, we recently migrated to MySQL 5.6. So far, it all looks good. So it's been only 2 weeks, though. So next year we can report on that. So in the future, we'll have more TLDs. The first round received over 1,300 applications that were that we'll probably see on the root zone. But that's just the first zone, the first phase. Maybe in the future we'll have more rounds of new GTLDs added to the root zone. We'll have a lot of new languages in the DNS. We hopefully we'll have an active solution that we would love to see something about high availability with Zabbix. We're currently just doing SAN data replication on the back end. We have an active passive solution. We are also starting to implement Zabbix in our internal systems, different systems that we have in the organization. And Zabbix is starting to create a lot of data. It's just a huge amount of data. So we are looking forward to see how we are going to integrate this with business intelligence applications or, great things to see trends on this work. Many thanks for your time. It's a pleasure, as I said before. And I'll be more than happy to answer any questions about the Zabbix system itself. Not about the rest, because we haven't released the front-end integration with the registry operators. So it's very, very few things I can disclose now.
Hello. Thank you for your presentation. You mentioned that you made changes to Zabbix, and the last slide you were saying you're going to give them back to the community once they're ready to go. The question I have is it just check or item related, or is it something that has an impact on, for example, running 12 million triggers on a Zabbix installation?
I would be... Well, we have an additional tab on the front end, which is the SLA Monitoring tab. We develop new tests in the back end. Now, as far as how we handle the performance, I'm not quite sure. Actually, I think Vladimir here would be able to answer that one. I don't think if we did implement performance improvements.
Well, in terms of performance, I believe there are no specific changes made for ICANN project from performance perspective. So you may take the latest Zabbix release and achieve exactly the same level of performance as ICANN does currently. Okay. But note that they're using quite powerful hardware. So yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're actually on 2.0. We're planning to migrate to 2.2 version. Mm-hmm. But no, we are using just the Zabbix platform. It's a great piece of software. Yeah. So as you could see, Zabbix is helping ICANN to monitor the DNS industry, which means Zabbix is actually monitoring a key component of the internet as a whole. I guess we are done with this. Okay. Thank you very much.